This week, we close out Gene Hackman Month with a movie that would shoot his career into the stratosphere. Welcome to Half-Ass Movie Podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Half-Ass Movie Podcast, a show where we put together a half-ass theme as an excuse to watch movies. My name is Adam Portress, and joining me today, he wouldn't risk his life in Oklahoma. Sweet Sean Zakovacs from the internet.
Mr. Darrow, is that a gun in your pocket?
And he's just happy to see you, Bruce Leslie.
That ain't my Uncle Jesse.
I didn't have that. I had a different one written, but that was way better than that one. Welcome back, everybody. We are here at the end of April. We're almost at the close, and we've been looking back at the movies of the recently departed Gene Hackman. And this week, we talk about the movie that would help launch Gene Hackman's career in a big, bad way, Bonnie and Clyde from 1967, directed by Author Penn. I think I mislabeled the director last week, and I just, like, it bothered me the whole time, just going, like, no one's going to know, no one's going to care. Now they may listen back now and go, oh, he's an idiot, but it bothered me enough all this week going, man, I screwed up that director's name. What a jackass I was.
That happens to me at least twice a month on this show. It's
on the internet forever as well. Ugh. Now, I've seen Bonnie and Clyde a couple of times here, but I think this is the first time for you guys, so I'm excited to see what you think about this movie. I know a decent amount about the history and the surrounding stuff, so I think we're going to have a lot of fun with this one today.
Oh, yeah. I'm really looking forward to talking about it. I had a good time with it.
This is... I don't know that there's probably a specific answer or anything, but anything that like made you never actually check this one out before? I mean, because it's it's a big iconic movie.
You know, the final scene with, we spoil things here, folks. If you haven't seen this 1967 preserved in the Library of Congress movie like Sean and I, we'd be warned. But the ending was so violent that my mother said it made her have nightmares, wouldn't let me watch it as a kid. And actually, I'd been kind of afraid of the movie for a long time. And then you reach a certain point where it's kind of like, you're at Blockbuster on a Friday night with your friends. You're probably not grabbing Bonnie and Clyde.
No, especially not back in that time and everything, I would imagine.
Not when Bloodsport Kickboxer Crossover 7 has just come out.
Sean, any proper excuse, or it's just never got around?
No, I just never got around to it. Like it was one of those movies where like I knew I should probably see it. And, I'm not a huge Warren Beatty fan.
That was going to be my question for you. I thought that there's a decent chance that you might not dig on Warren Beatty.
I mean, I like him in certain roles. But most of the time, and this is going to sound like sacrilege to some people, he feels like a stage actor who's working in movies to me sometimes. And he definitely does in this movie as well.
And I don't know anything about his background, but he's from the era where he may have had some stage acting training before. I don't know what, I know nothing. I'm guessing here, but it wouldn't surprise me. I think that might have been more prevalent in the past than it is now.
Mm-hmm. I got a little bit about how this movie started and everything and kind of came about. So I got a little bit of info on that.
And also, stage acting now is not what we think of as stage acting either. So they've both evolved, and I don't think you see it as jarring now and people go from one medium to the other, but you really used to be able to feel it.
Oh, yeah.
Now we just have video screens.
I mean, honestly, just the lav mic technology and the wireless headset mics that they can hide has gone a long way to giving a human performance instead of playing to the back row.
Yep, that's for sure. Well, before we get into all of this, though, do us a favor and take your time. Head on over and subscribe to us on the iTunes if you haven't done that, or iTunes, YouTube, rather, is what I should have said. Do that, man. Like, subscribe, all of those good things. We really appreciate it. I got some new stuff working on pretty soon. Got some home theater stuff coming up. That's a little secret I haven't told many people, but that's brewing here in the past. And I also got to see the new movie from David Sandberg, the guy who did the Shazam movies and Lights Out and everything. He's back to doing small-time horror movies in Until Dawn, and it seems like I'm the only person who enjoyed this movie.
I've heard really good things from the horror movie crowd, the input that I get, so that's interesting.
Because I think there's a lot of splits on this one, man. I knew nothing about the video game that it's based on, and I think a lot of people that hate it are the video game people that are like, hey.
That may be the case, because I know nothing about the video game either. I just heard it. Whatever your favorite genre of horror is, they got a little bit of it in there, is what I was told.
And speaking of Until Dawn, that's going to be my highlighted comment on the YouTube this week here, and it comes from Real Talk with Ryan89. That's REEL. He like a movie, so this guy. And he writes in my Until Dawn review, I wish I would have liked this. Outside of the visuals, gore, and blood, I didn't like the lack of characterization and the story. Subbed to your channel. That's the cool part. This guy watched a video, disagreed with the review, still subbed. That's
good for you. What was his name? Tony Real Talk or
Real Talk with Ryan 89.
Real Talk with Ryan 89. Give you a nice good plug there, Ryan. Thanks for being a mature, functioning adult.
Yeah, it's so rare these days. If somebody goes, I don't agree with you, but I will continue to go on because it seems like something that's pretty awesome. So
I don't feel the same way as you do about this video game adaptation movie. I hope everyone you love gets cancer.
Yeah, that's what it usually
Whoa.
is. That's
yeah, that's how they go, Shanzi.
The best part is though, still in so many of the popcorn comments and stuff, they'll be like, what appears on the surface to be a very, very mean comment. Then you just go like, oh, what do you mean by this? And then they go like, no, this was meant in love. What do you tell your face, man? That's just,
look, I'm just giving you feedback as if I am a professional coach on how to do this. That's one that gets me too. It's like,
love it.
I didn't ask you for it.
But I do want your comments and stuff over there on YouTube, and the best part is that there's not a ton of them out there, so I will respond to each and every one of them. So spam the ever living hell out of all of my stuff, and make me work for the few cents that we get off there of YouTube. So link for that is in the show notes.
And for me, if you ever leave me a comment, I will never, ever read it. So write whatever the hell you want.
And I want to thank the listeners. They finally stopped posting horrific family tragedies as comments. So thank you, everyone, for stopping it.
Well, and if you really like this show, why don't you head over to patreon.com/HMP, pre-show, post-show, Dinger Zone. And we finished up Dinger Zone last week with all of our 30 questions for Daredevil Born Again. And we are starting it up yet again. I think Disney's like, listen, man, we got to keep putting stuff out on a very regular basis so these people quit canceling on us. So they rolled us right into Andor. So we're going to be doing Andor 30 questions. That first episode is not only going to it's going to come out on YouTube and everything, but then after that, all of those will be on the Patreon page. So even, again, at any level, right up at that $1, just get yourself in, get those Andor 30 questions. And on top of that, at the end of every one of the regular video YouTube stuff where I'm doing, some commentary or review or something, there is a Patreon page at the end of it where your name is emblazoned for all of the internet to see. So you can put it around and show it to your mom and, make her real proud. Because, what have you done to make her proud so far? Make your mom proud. So go to patreon.com/HMP today and join up. We really appreciate that. Love you all so very much. All right, gentlemen. Let's get into it. Here's the IMDb plotline for Bonnie and Clyde. As we know, IMDb always 100% correct in everything they say and or do. Bored waitress Bonnie Parker falls in love with an ex-con named Clive Barrow, and together they start a violent crime spree through the country, stealing cars and robbing banks. I tell you what, IMDb has kind of been on the point for the last couple of things I've been reading with them lately. I don't know what's going on there. It's a little confusing.
They heard your notes.
Yeah, I listen. God
they
willing.
went back to the very first episode of the Film Find, and they've worked their way through.
We've seen your complaints, duly noted. This is written by the writing team of David Newman and Robert Benton, with a whole bunch of punch-ups done by Robert Towne, who himself says, if I really wanted to arbitrate this thing, I probably could and should have back in the day to get himself a little bit more money on this. It's directed by Author Penn, who did The Miracle Worker and Mickey 1 with Warren Beatty. And then after Bonnie and Clyde, he did 2 more Gene Hackman movies, Night Moves and Target. This, of course, starring Warren Beatty, Faye Dunaway, Michael J. Pollard, Gene Hackman, and a couple others. Again, first time watch it, huh, guys? What do you think? Let's just kind of get that right out of the way. Not all at once now.
You could throw it to one of us.
Well, I just threw
it up.
Instead
of just throwing it up.
Hey, Sean, please start.
Yeah.
I was checking a message that I got and didn't quite hear the setup.
Okay, so I got a couple of things. One is that the first thing that became very noticeable to me is that I only know Faye Dunaway as Faye Dunaway now. Like she's an older lady.
Mm-hmm.
And like even in I think she's in Superman 3, maybe, and everybody's calling her. No, she's not in Superman 3. She's in Supergirl.
Yeah, Supergirl. Yeah,
and and she plays Mommy Dearest. Like I know her from those things.
Mm-hmm.
And so when everyone is like gushing over how beautiful Faye Dunaway is, I'm like, really? And then I see her in this, and I'm like, oh, holy cow, that's what everybody was talking about.
This movie, that is honestly between Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway, this is probably the best both of those have ever looked. They look so good.
And I mean, that has to be a huge part of the box office appeal at the time, and why this
For
is such
sure.
like nobody, Bonnie and Clyde, ride or die, that whole idealization of this criminal relationship wouldn't exist if they were Ernest Borgnine and Ethel Merman.
Or would it? But I mean, that's true in real life.
Sexual tension.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of the thing. Like, if Bonnie was an ugly lady traveling around with Clyde in real life, there wouldn't be nearly the news stories about the story. You know what I mean? And so, I mean, that's kind of the issue with all of this to me, is that, like, because Clyde can look like Clyde. It doesn't really matter. It's about Bonnie, really. That, like, oh, wow, this really pretty girl is robbing banks with this guy. This is newsworthy, totally newsworthy. And she's not, like, she's a willing participant, The thing that is just so jarring to me, not only that Faye Dunaway is just so gorgeous in this movie, but also may equal parts have one of the worst Texas accents I've ever seen in my life in a movie.
Yeah, I don't think she's a native Texan. That was my takeaway.
Clearly not. I think that she just watched Foghorn Leghorn and went, perfect.
You know what? Some effort's better than no effort, I guess. Or maybe not. I'm wrong sometimes. I don't know.
I don't know. If she Costnered it up, I don't think anyone will be complaining.
No.
She definitely was well received by the audiences. So whatever her decisions were, she's a bigger star than me. So who am I to second guess her?
And one of the things I'm really surprised I didn't touch on in the screenplay is that, for most of these guys in the 20s and 30s and 40s, are robbing all these banks and stuff. The thing that I was so shocked they didn't put in this movie is the reason why they kept being able to get away from bank robberies, other than the fact that, like, there was no system in place for, stopping people from robbing banks, really. The second part of it was their cars were twice as fast as the cars that the police had, which is why they could get out of town so quickly. And, whether it's Bonnie and Clyde, whether it's any of the other bank robbers, like Babyface Nelson, like all of these guys, they all had souped up, top of the line cars to get out of town with. It's kind of why they were so successful. And so, and it seems like that's a very interesting plot point to me. And the fact that they didn't keep that in.
Yeah, and they kind of show you that CW might be, a bit of a car guy and everything like that, but they never quite utilize that. They mention it up top, but like outside of like, oh, we're leaking oil now, it's never really, he never quite goes beyond that role as far as cars are concerned.
And
right.
Pollard, I think, is the last name of the guy that played CW. Cool character actor, been around for years. I love the guy in a lot of different roles, but man, hard to buy him as part of a criminal gang.
Really?
I think they're playing him as, what's a right way? Simple.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Mentally challenged.
He's just a country boy. He don't know much better.
I absolutely agree with that. He's a guy who is looking to belong.
Right.
But it's a nice touch. I'm not saying that it's a bad choice. I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things. Like, to me, it feels, a little bit against type. Let's see what they're doing with this.
I found funny.
It interesting, but it was a little bit like, what? Hold on. Am I seeing this right? Whose brother is he? Whose nephew?
Seeing him in 30 years in Dick Tracy. It's like, oh, that's the same dude.
Oh, yeah.
Same guy.
I'm pretty sure he was in Hamburger the movie.
Oh, don't spoil it.
Oh, sorry.
We try to stay spoiler
He's the
free.
reveal. He is the hamburger.
So at this point, like in his career, he's Warren Beatty's not really taken off, but he has these giant aspirations. He really wants to do something. He did Mickey 1 with the director here previously and everything, and that's only the reason why he's kind of directing this one is he kind of went through everybody else. I mentioned a couple names last week. Those were names that he went to. He tried everybody out there. So this is a time when every person who is their age in Hollywood right now has gone through all of the French New Wave and everything. They are super into it. And that is what they want to do more than anything, is have their own kind of like Americanized French New Wave sort of movie. And this is their kind of attempt at it. And it's not too bad. All comparison to this, versus, that French New Wave, which is obviously very different than this. But with this American twist on it and everything, it's pretty cool. But no one wanted to make this. Warren Beatty's going into Jack Warner, who they all called the Colonel.
Oh, fellow Colonel.
Yeah, fellow Colonel. And he's like, so here's the thing. Here's the thing that I always find funny when I'm hearing a bunch of like Warren Beatty stories and everything, is that everyone has this idea of who Warren Beatty is, that he's like this very smooth kind of guy, feels like he could kind of walk into a room and just talk anybody into anything. And Warren Beatty was that guy, but he was also a big giant beggar. Warren Beatty, there are so many stories of Warren Beatty walking into like producers and stuff, especially to the Colonel here, and just saying, Colonel, you have to let me make this movie. I'll kiss your feet. Like, he's literally down on the ground, kissing Jack Warner's feet, trying to make him make this movie.
I can kind of see Warren Beatty do that. He has just a touch of that like Tom Cruise energy where he'll do some weird stuff to get something done.
He's very much that kind of type. I would put him in that kind of thing.
He's the kind of guy that would give multiple press releases about a Dick Tracy movie he knows damn well he's not going to make.
But he's a guy who's got his kind of mind, set on a thing, and he wants to go forward and whatnot, and nobody wants to kind of do this sort of thing. But he's hell bent on all of it. They finally get enough stuff to do it and whatnot. They figure everything out. Jack Warner hated this movie the second he even saw it, because the original cut was like 2.5 hours long or something like that. And so the idea is that Jack Warner said, if I have to get up and take a whiz, your movie's no good. So in the first 20 minutes, he takes a whiz. He pees 3 times throughout the entire movie. He says, "This is a piece of garbage. It's a 3-pisser movie." And just like, I don't want.
That's our new rating scale, guys. How many pisses did you take? That's our new rating scale.
So that, like, he stormed out. Now the crazy part is that Warner Brothers itself then got sold during this whole thing. So Jack didn't really have much else to say, because it just kind of went on to another company. Surprisingly, they kept things going and whatnot. But
is that when Discovery took over?
But the big thing is that like this movie wasn't this giant success when it first started out. It kind of like, you got to remember, we're back in the 60s here and everything. So there's not like 3,000, screen debuts and everything. You used to start off in like your New York and LA, and you'd work a little bit out and just kind of.
I mean, you'd only have like 100 prints, right? And they'd circulate.
If that even sometimes. But so they would test out here, and in those markets, it didn't do super hot. It didn't do horrible, but it didn't do anywhere near what they kind of wanted to. And so the movie had this big kind of slump off and everything, and people didn't realize. But eventually they kind of got around, and right after that, they got up and debuted it over at the Montreal Film Festival. And everybody went ape over it at that point. And then it kind of like started circling out a little bit more, but it really kicked off when they had an issue of Time magazine that had Bonnie and Clyde on the front of it, talking about how this was kind of more or less that new American, new French wave kind of thing going on. All of a sudden, everybody started getting reissued. The towns that it had gone to before and everything got the movie again, started going up, and all of a sudden, boom, New Hollywood has started. Because this is essentially like the kind of tipping point just before, Easy Rider and everything. This was that, like, while Easy Rider would kind of push it over the edge for the New Hollywood and stuff, this was literally that kind of the spark that started all of that.
I can see that here too. Have we talked much about Peckinpah yet?
No, so we remember Peckinpah. Now, initially he was talked about as a possible director for this, but he was too much of a drunk. And I said Peckinpah last week, and that was my screw up.
Yeah, but you could totally see where you would make that mistake watching this movie.
Especially with the shoot 'em up at the end. Yeah.
And I could also see this movie, if directed by Peckinpah, and I think it might be a little bit better, for me at least. We all have our own things we want, but I would have liked to have seen the Peckinpah version, but watching it, definitely have that thought with this time.
Here's the funny part about that, Bruce, is that we are at a time right now where, now this would still be true after this, mind you, but Peckinpah was a pretty bad drunk, right? He's kind of gone past his prime at this and everything. And it's because this movie comes out that he's able to have that second career, resurgent with all of those 70s movies that he had because of movies like this. So
because of this movie, he got to pull a gun on the family that owned the rights to Superman. I can't remember their name.
But the Wild Bunch exists because Bonnie and Clyde, for sure.
Sure.
Well, that's a heck of a legacy.
That's also Butch Cassidy, right? I mean, Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid comes out 69. Is that right?
Man, and I don't know, Sean, I'll let you kind of dictate the conversation, but just a general statement about endings, not the specific ending we have here. But there's that time in that era where that ending just has that feeling of finality, and you just have to go home and think about it, and it doesn't tell you how to feel. You don't get the denouement in a lot of these movies, and I kind of like that. It's a nice, I wouldn't want every single movie I saw to be that way, but it's nice to have that thrown in the rotation here and there.
I agree with you with everything you just said. Although I think what is missing is, how come the other IP of the other characters aren't like, and I'll be back and like run off, so that they can start their own kind of like Bonnie and Clyde universe.
Like the Fast and Furious 1932 or whatever.
Right. Exactly. Where you just keep making sequels to things no one asked for.
Bonnie's got amnesia.
Yeah. She got shot up 100 times. We fixed her. She's coming back.
Oh, she's the bionic woman now.
Exactly.
And there was an era that maybe we're not quite in anymore, or maybe it's still there and I'm just blind to it because we're in the middle of it. But it's nice to look back where there's this era of turning certain criminals into heroes. And, the lore always puts in these Robin Hood aspects, like he robs the bank, but asks the guy, is that your money or the bank's money? You keep it. The whole narrative, the banks, during the Depression, the banks were stealing from everybody is what it felt like. So you steal some back, blowing up the mortgage papers. Wasn't that in some movie that we've covered at some point? But anyway, all of that stuff, most of it probably BS, if you ask me. It's because they're trying to build a hero because they hate the banks or whatever. I don't think we do that quite as much, but it's always fun to look back and know, like, oh, yeah, during the Depression, you probably would idolize people who were striking against those you feel are responsible for losing everything you have.
Well, one of the things that the film does fairly well is that it does, they are showing you that, like, oh, Bonnie and Clyde absolutely are doing this the way they're doing it because they want to get in the newspaper. Right. Like they want to be famous.
It's their ticket. American Idol wasn't around back then.
Right. And so they knew that the newspaper, especially once the newspapers really started catching on, like I said at the beginning of the show, that, Bonnie really kind of set the newspapers on fire because she's a pretty lady. And so they're dropping photographs of themselves, at crime scenes and stuff, so that the newspaper can print the photography. And another thing too is that, Clyde is smart enough. He's not a real smart guy, but he's smart enough to where he knows, hey, if I let this guy, I don't know if it was a farmer specifically, but he did ask he did in real life ask somebody, is that your money or the bank's? And the guy goes, this is my money. And he goes, well, then you can take it and get out of here. And he did that specifically so that he could tell the newspapers, oh, yeah, he's like Robin Hood, but an American. Like, it wasn't out of the goodness of his heart, like this movie makes it seem. It's literally because he knows that the newspaper is going to pick up on it.
It was good business.
Yes.
Now, at the exact same time, one of the things that was a little bit kind of scandalous about this movie was that outside of, their fate at the end of the movie and everything, we never once hear them apologize or feel any remorse or anything for anything that they ever do. And that was not happening, in the movies in the late 60s and stuff like that. They would either have to feel sorry, but the fact that they died is at least, enough to kind of satiate people to go, all right, they met their end and everything, but zero remorse throughout the entire film. That was very specifically thought of. And again, that was more of their kind of European thought of like, hey, you just do what you do. You're the bad kids and there's no remorse for that.
Yeah, and I don't know that it was written that way, but you look at it in retrospect and you're like, yeah, some serious sociopathic, psychopathic kind of tendencies there. And it's funny how if you just pattern behavior on what you expect that you can look back and say, even though maybe you didn't understand what you're explaining, you've observed it and recreated it well. To me, I just have fun with things like that.
Speaking of,
I think one of the things that I really enjoy about this movie is the way it starts. Like, this is all BS. This is not the way that Bonnie and Clyde met each other. Like, it didn't happen within the span. But that's what I really like is the Stan Lee compressed storytelling, like 60s movie writing that happens in this movie, where it's just like, yeah, so Warren Beatty just shows up and immediately Faye Dunaway gets in the car with him and they become crooks, like immediately within the first 10 minutes. Yeah. He is literally robbing that grocery store and she is with him for the full ride within 10 minutes of this movie starting.
And then 5 minutes after that, CW goes, yeah, I'll join this gang. Why not?
Exactly. And that kind of compressed storytelling, I really did like, because I'm so used to like the Netflix model of like,
4 episodes.
At the end of the first episode, he meets Bonnie, and so you're literally like halfway through the first season and it's like, hey, what do you think about, I sure am tired of getting stepped on by society. What if we become bank robbers? And it's just like, oh my God, we know all this already. Let's move on.
Tease for season 2.
this movie don't truck with that pattern. This movie wants to go. And that's what I liked about it.
It is interesting, like in a world before widespread electronic communications, how easy it was to be a bank robber. Everybody knows, like, to be a celebrity and still be actively robbing banks blows my mind.
Mulaney has the best joke on this, where it must have been so much easier to be living in the 20s, especially if you're a criminal, because you could go into a bank and after you rob the bank, you could say, and tell him that Sweet McGee and his brothers, the boys, came. Ha ha! And we'll walk out of the bank and they'd get away. So they just constantly were able to keep robbing because there's no infrastructure in place for stopping this from happening.
Mm.
Yeah, I like the idea. If the cops lose their line of sight with you, then that's it. You're gone. Like, right. They don't even have radios where they can call and say, hey, head them off at I-33. It's crazy. The dirt roads they're on probably don't even have names back then. I swear I remember the summer in my town when they decided they had to give every road a name. It was pretty funny.
Turn by the oak tree.
So Adam, I had teased this before the show started that, Roger Ebert is very closely tied with this movie because he is a very young movie reporter. And all the critics are basically slamming this movie. Like, mm-hmm. Pauline Kael hated Bonnie and Clyde. But Roger Ebert, being of the next generation of people, was like, oh, this is speaking to my generation. This is speaking to like people my age. And he writes about that. Like, this is one of the first movies I've seen that's literally writing to my generation. And so this is an important movie. And because of that, he kind of becomes established very quickly as one of the movie critics to listen to if you are, in your teens or 20s and you want to know what a movie is like. People immediately go to Ebert for that. And I just found that very interesting that his career is basically tied to this movie, because he would not have been nationally syndicated if it weren't for this movie.
Was he in Chicago at that point?
Yes. Or at least so quickly. He wouldn't have been syndicated so quickly because he had his charm as a writer, obviously.
So here's the mind blower. If not for this movie, Roger Ebert doesn't get syndicated. He doesn't tell Oprah Winfrey to get syndicated. We don't have Oprah Winfrey as we know her, if not for Bonnie and Clyde. Now that, folks, keep for your next cocktail party.
Oh my.
Now, just for clarification, though, I double checked because I was fairly certain, because I just reread in the book and everything. Pauline Kael actually loved Bonnie and Clyde. Was one of the first people to actually, praise the film.
Is she the New York Times reporter?
Yeah, they're the New Yorker.
The New Yorker. It's the New York Times reporter who hates.
Most everybody did hate this movie. Pauline Kael was one of the very few people who did champion this movie, and it was almost kind of too late at that point.
Go
I
ahead.
can
I'm sorry.
imagine the members of the Greatest Generation, great group of people, but tend to be a little bit more optimistic, just not liking this stark, cold ending without any resolution other than destruction.
Yeah, of course, man. I mean, you're already, think about it. You're an older person who has basically saved the free world. You come home, you want things to be nice, and now you're stupid kids who don't have jobs.
Yeah, those
Right?
boomers, man. It's a boomer movie.
Yeah, it is. It totally is a boomer movie, and it's bleak and it's depressing, and and meanwhile, their father is like, man, I just want to have a nice time, and you guys are killing that for me. I don't want to see this movie.
Bit of a bummer, the Bonnie and Clyde. But I mean, again, some of the stuff that they were kind of able to get away with in '67 is still kind of wild. Like you said at the beginning there, when he's, which by the way, God Almighty, what an amazing! The costumes are all just so fantastic in this movie. They look so good. And while he's on the street there drinking his Coke and got the match in his mouth and everything, when he pulls out the gun and she like looks at it and then just like strokes the gun, like just getting away with murder in 1967.
This movie, at the beginning of this movie, is very, very thirsty. This is a very thirsty movie at the beginning.
Yeah, I as a kid I would have loved to have snuck into that one, but. When is it too early to go ahead and talk about the man who is the reason for the season when Big Brother Buck, played by Gene Hackman, shows up? And is this the Hackman's breakout role?
This was like he'd been in other things before, but this was kind of the big one. Again, once that kind of Time magazine cover came out and everything, and everybody was like, oh, y'all telling us this is something that we should go see? Boom, it got that second kind of legs and everything. And I think that is what really kind of got Gene Hackman in people's eyeballs for a good bit here and everything. And the nice part is comparatively to all the other Gene Hackman roles that we've been covering and stuff, this is the first one where he's less Gene Hackman than Hackman normally is,
It's the least Hackman-y role other than like Hoosiers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like Hackman didn't know who he was yet, which, that's not quite the case, but just in the performance, maybe he didn't have the confidence to just say, hey, it's Hackman.
He wasn't Gene Hackman yet. He was
Eugene Hackmanstein.
Yeah.
I sure wish it was Hackman time again. I could use a little Hackman time.
But yeah, he's pretty great in this movie and stuff. And
oh my God, man. He's
elevates it.
Completely, like Warren Beatty is a very pretty man. I've already said I don't think he's an amazing actor. Like he's a good actor in the right things. I don't buy him at all as Clyde. Yet when Gene Hackman shows up, this movie goes from like, oh, we've shifted to fourth gear to fifth gear now. And, maybe that's just my Gene Hackman bias coming out, but the movie is extremely elevated to me the second he shows up on screen. Like right away, he's like, throwing body shots to Warren Beatty, just giving him the business,
And he is treating Warren Beatty like his kid brother for sure. And like you feel that kind of coming off of him, and with the accent that he's throwing on here, and again that fantastic beat up and stained leather jacket, it's just like it all tells a story. It's so good.
And I know it's all backwards, but it's just the order in which I was exposed to the films. But when Buck and Clyde are having their quick reunion after getting out of prison and whatnot, it almost has like that Raising Arizona feeling when Highs reunited with John Goodman.
A little bit, man. Yep. I didn't catch that. You were totally right. I'm wondering if maybe that's where a little bit of that comes from. It's from this movie.
The chances the Coen brothers had not seen this movie before then has got to be zero.
Slim.
It's not zero, but it's damn close. It's damn close to zero.
I figure there's two brothers, so there's a 50-50 chance that either one of them seen it. But if one of them seen it, the other one seen it, so they get you a 75% chance. Then there's two of them, so there's a 150% chance that they've seen it.
I like how the maths.
Yeah, you can't argue with perfection.
7.2500 repeating. Once he's in here, there is now something that this movie hadn't had before, which is that you can totally see where people are afraid of Gene Hackman. Gene Hackman is a scary person. He has a very like demanding presence.
He's a physical dude. When he's sitting in the car with Beatty, he looks like he could just beat the piss out of Beatty in 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Just a
Definitely.
monster.
I mean, I'm totally buying that, and he adds the menace that Beatty doesn't have. It's like
Yeah.
Warren Beatty has the aggression, and his brother has the menace, and you can kind of see, like, is he realizing he's kind of the softy, and his brother was tough, so he's trying to put on like he's tough instead of being genuine tough like his brother is. I mean, there's so much family dynamic you can look into. The brothers genuinely seem to love each other, which is nice. No real rivalry there. It's a whole lot of fun to explore there. And obviously they've got like either different mothers or different fathers, because there's no way those guys
look at them mugs.
Yeah.
Now, Estelle Parsons, who plays his wife, actually won an Academy Award for this role.
And probably of the central five people in the gang, my least favorite performance.
Well, of course, because it's the one that's the most grating.
Yeah, she's a bummer character.
Yeah.
Like, she's supposed to be kind of that, the fifth wheel, so to speak.
I don't think any part of this movie is intended to be interpreted as comedy, but when she's running around with that spatula in her hand, Farrelly Brothers could have done it better.
It's pretty damn funny.
So,
I do have to say my biggest surprise, because I didn't look at the cast before I started watching it, is when Gene Wilder shows up.
it's
And
one I
he
always
is
forget
so-
about.
He's so great in the scene, in his scene here, and the back and forth between him and Hackman. I'm just like, man, why can't the whole movie be like this?
But boy, when Gene Wilder delivers his first couple of lines, I thought it was going to be rough until I understood what he was doing.
Right.
But I don't know. When he first opened his mouth, did it seem like, man, I know he's a better actor than this. That's how it felt to me at first.
Yeah, it was
I
just
always-
kind of like odd choices here. What are you doing? What is
Well, shit, man, Gene Hackman's doing a voice too. It's a little
Yeah,
weird
yeah.
when you first hear him doing it.
But when
it's
he's
fun
in
to see a
once
different
he's in the
version.
car, once he's in the car and everything, and he has that impotent rage where he's just like so bad, and she's driving. Which I love that scenario as well. Which would not be the case back then at all. Would the woman be the one that's driving in this scenario? But the fact that she's driving and he's seething and everything, it's so great. And when they come across him, I have to put the windows up. It's so funny.
And I love it there at the end when they're getting kicked out of the car or something, and she says she's 35, and Gene Wilder gives that look like, too old for me.
They got a clown car at that point as well. There was
They
like
really
15
love
people
it.
up in there. I don't know.
And
how.
I'm not necessarily a big time car guy, but I love all the cars in this movie. I think it'd be so fun to tootle around in a field in a Model T or whatever these things are. I love the way they could just pull over. All right, I'll go through the middle of a field and into the woods. Like, you could not do that in a modern car without tearing stuff up.
It's one of the things about Hollywood that is a little BS, because those are the cars that you're that you're watching in this movie, which are time period appropriate. They're great looking cars, but they're all different colors, and they're all different like models and sizes, and everybody has different cars. But the fact of the matter is, 98% of your cars on the road during this time, they're all black.
Yep.
They're all Fords.
Well, I
Like,
mean, that was Ford's slogan. Model T comes in any color you want as long as it's black.
Right. But you're not preserving, not everyone is preserving their Model T. And that's why, you get all these cool looking colors, and, you got like, some of them have like wood paneling on them, and they're just really beautiful, beautiful vehicles. But I can't help but be like, these cars would not in the middle of Texas and Oklahoma. Like the cars are not going to look like this.
You're in the Dust Bowl era.
Right.
But at least they did have a quick visit to a Hoover town where we did get the little bit of period reality check about the situation.
Right.
Yeah, it was, and it's probably one of the more kind of like I like that part of the movie where we're kind of just slowing down here and everything. We get to see a little bit of kind of the other side, and it, like you said previously, at least this gives a little bit more humanity to our characters, despite them not being remorseful for anything, including the death of other people, because they start out at least saying, "Hey, we don't want to kill anybody," but after a while, they're just like, "People got to get killed," so. But at least it's nice to see them in this situation where they're like, hey, we're not just heartless pieces of garbage all of the time, just most of the time.
And there's a pretty strong implication that maybe they didn't do all the heinous things they got blamed for, like, oh, there's an unsolved case, just hang it on Bonnie and Clyde. But then also like, I think they probably really did do those. And this is his defense, So I like it that there is some ambiguity there. Are they stealing other people's credit, or are they just trying to make themselves seem better than they are? There's so many different motivations there.
Yeah. And you really can go down either avenue and it'd be just as valid, I would say.
I know I've been farting all over this movie, and I don't mean to. Like, I do like this movie, but there's yet another thing that I'm going to say poorly about it. Your late 1960s is getting in my era when the farmer takes the gun from Clyde and starts shooting up the house. Then he is his friend, I guess, his his employee,
the sharecropper,
sharecropper shows up, and they're good friends. Those two are really good friends, and he hands that guy the gun, and that guy starts shooting at the house too. Now, this is a big problem for me. One, there is no way in hell that a farmer from the middle of Texas in the 20s is number one, friends with the black guy. And two, there's no way he's handing him a gun.
Yeah.
Hold on.
I don't know. I wasn't there, but I think you make a good point.
Are you telling me Hollywood might have had a small agenda on their hands here?
It just makes me crazy. It's like, look, if you met somebody from the 20s now, your head would spin with all of the things that are coming out of their mouth. that's fine, because that's the era. That is literally how people thought.
Can I tell you the one thing that drove me crazy and pulled me out of this movie?
Please.
So when they go back into that, they're excavating a quarry or something, and it's out in the middle of nowhere so they can meet Bonnie's mom.
Mm-hmm.
And the story is told like it's a good story. Townspeople came out to see what's going on. The director saw this old lady in the crowd and said, "You'd be perfect for Bonnie's mom." And he puts her in the movie. Oh my God, is she painful to watch?
There's a level of 70s acting sometimes that there were a couple of handful of people every now and then that just gave real dog shit performances, and they just show up, and oftentimes they do show up in very good films, but for whatever reason they'll all of a sudden just be somebody who just sounds like they've just landed on Earth, and they're like, oh, these are the words I say. Okay, sure, I'll read that.
That story is not just a dumb story I made up. I mean, Wikipedia says the truth is he pulled a random person from town and had her be the mom.
Well, it certainly shows.
I think you should have done at least one take with a professional just in case.
That's some Michael Mann stuff right there, right? Like, Michael Mann's constantly putting, just civilians in his movie. And geez, man, even in the 80s, he was doing that. So
I just saw a group of cholos and I said, "Hey, you want to be in the movie?" And they were like, "Yeah, sounds great."
And so every so often you get a performance in a Michael Mann movie where you're just like, what in God's green earth made you pick that person, Michael?
He'd stab me if I didn't let him in the movie.
That's how Orson Welles was discovered.
It's stabbing people?
No, he was just walking past when Charlie Chaplin was shooting a picture. And he said, "Put that boy in my movie." Only he didn't say it. They had to put up a title card while he flopped around.
I hate you so much.
I do love when those actors from the Hollywood of yore are like, you can't just hang out at the soda shop hoping to be discovered. You got to get out there and work. It's like, what are you talking about, dude? Soda shop? Where are we? Where are you?
Listen, you can't get too fancy on people. That's all.
I also like some of the stories you've shared with us where it was like at the age of 15, he got tired of the coal mines and went to vaudeville. Like, there's no in-between explanation. Like, I'm tired of coal mining. I'm going to go be a ventriloquist.
Right. This juggling's going to pave my way.
He plays a mean banjo. Let him go. Let him go.
They make it sound like going to vaudeville is as easy as getting a job anywhere else,
Now, when this movie got all together and everything, Warren Beatty was just like the grapes on this guy at this time to be as young as he was, put this movie together, and he invited all, like, every kind of big name Hollywood, big swinging that you could figure coming into this thing, and half of them hated it. But it was just like, it was, I don't know, when you hear all of this kind of stuff, you just kind of, this was a guy who just kept going and never, kind of never took no for an answer, Warren Beatty. I think that was how he just kind of muscled his way through everything, really.
Well, it seems to work for him.
One of the coolest bits and stuff that, like, it feels like Warren made this story up, but there's a decent enough chance that he can be true. So after, like, the big Montreal Film Festival and everything, there's a giant hit. Everybody loves it. And so the report is that Warren Beatty is up in his hotel room. He literally is laying in his bed with a woman on either arm. So he's got ladies on both sides of him. And he goes, ladies, we're celebrating tonight. What is the wildest place in Montreal? That's where we're going. That's what we're doing. And they looked at him and said, it's right here, Mr. Beatty. This is the one. Like it just sounds like some real Warren Beatty shit that he made up.
That sounds made up.
It's just like, this is the wildest place right here. And I'm like, you know what? Warren made that up. 110%.
Without a doubt.
But just it's so much just stupidity out of that. I love it. Now, here's the thing. Another little fun fact is, again, because we're going off of the French New Wave here and everything, and those guys were like kind of pushing boundaries with stuff. The United States didn't do a whole bunch of that just yet, and they really wanted to kind of push into this one. Now, before, it never really got to the shooting phase and everything, but when they were writing and stuff, there was initially a point where Clive was not impotent, but rather could only get off with C.W. Moss in the room.
Now, that adds a whole new dimension to the movie that I'm going to make.
But that was initially going to be their thing, is that, like, they wanted, Clive to be impotent, but only if, C.W. Moss was in some way involved in stuff. That's when things could actually happen. And so they actually, feels like they make very specific points. And for his credit of the time and everything, Warren was actually okay with it, which is a little shocking, because a lot of guys at that point certainly don't want to be, thought of as gay at any point or anything like that. So that would be,
that would probably really hurt Warren Beatty's dating life if he played a gay guy in a movie.
Well, now he would a couple years later, but the whole point was that he wasn't gay in that movie. But but they were like, but he was all in for it. But they were essentially like, listen, we're pulling enough strings here with them kind of not being remorseful for any of their killings and stuff. You got to wait all the way till the end of Jules and Jim before you start, understanding what the hell's going on here. We can't have one more super hard plot like that to throw into this movie as well. It's just going to start confusing people. Let's just leave it till he's impotent until he gets, going and everything.
Sounds like somebody wanted as many crazy elements as Natural Born Killers would later have.
Yeah, I mean, they were, listen, their whole idea was they were kind of, pushing the envelope here and everything. That was their entire goal, is to just kind of, do stuff that everybody else wasn't doing. And say, for whatever you might think of him, Warren Beatty just, was one of those guys that I think, like George Lucas, just feels like, I got to get something done, and just does it. And, he'll be damned. He's just got to figure out a way to do it.
You got to admire folks like that. That's not an easy way to be.
Let's talk about the kind of shootout here at the end and everything, because it's giant, it's spectacular, and this is kind of like the big thing that everything is leading up to in this film. My guess is you guys have probably heard kind of the tale of the big kind of shootout here at the end. Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a little bit about it. Nobody agrees on whose fault it is, and there's a little bit of an agreement that maybe some excessive force was used.
Just a touch.
When everybody's saying, I didn't shoot first, that's a way to tell you they know that they probably shouldn't have shot at all.
I always enjoy when there's like a barrage of like 1,000 bullets and like once everything's done, and it goes, hold your fire. That's always funny when police say, wait a minute, you've shot 1 million bullets here. What are you even talking about?
I like CW's dad getting down on his belly and getting under the trunk, because how many PAs do you think it took to help him get back up on his feet after this?
His dad is a really good guy. I like him. A great editing in this part.
Very
going
believable.
Boom, 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 boom.
Incredible casting. Like, that looks like that's genetically CW's father.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So good. And of course, like, within this and everything, you think about your time frame. This was very much also supposed to be echoing, the Kennedy assassination and stuff like that, because obviously, his head going up like that is clearly a hi, everybody.
Yes, clearly.
And but it's real. I think it's so good that they do it. And again, like you said, Bruce, we just kind of stop there. We're finished out. And again, that's also very kind of, French New Wave and everything. We're just like, hey, we're done. Close it down and we're finished. Which I think is always kind of works. Well, not always, but like works very well in the right kinds of films, like your Vertigo and stuff like that, where it's like, well, that's it. Bye. Credits.
I think it's the right way for this and that Sundance Kid movie to end.
Yeah. All right. So if you had to recast this movie for Gene Hackman, who do you got? I think I got a good one.
Is it time? Is it got to be somebody from the era?
It can be. It can be. Mine's from the era.
I'll say if your suggestion is interesting, I don't care. Like it can be from any era.
It wouldn't be. This one won't be great. But like at least he's of the kind of right age around there. He should be a little bit older. But the odd part is Gene Hackman and Warren Beatty are like the same age.
Really?
Yeah.
Wouldn't have guessed that.
So I put Robert Redford. That was like he could at least hang in that kind of handsome man category.
So he can be more handsome than Warren Beatty.
Listen, I'm just movie. Maybe that's what I was angling for. Maybe I want him in this movie instead.
Here's what I say: if you can't get Lex Luthor, you get Otis and make Ned Beatty his brother.
That ain't bad, man.
Hey,
are they related in real life? I don't know the answer to that. I just know their last names both.
I don't think so. That's a fairly.
Okay. It'd be great if they were brothers and Warren Beatty was ashamed of him and didn't tell. Wait, isn't Warren Beatty's sister Shirley MacLaine?
Yes.
That okay, is true.
So there's no way that Shirley MacLaine and Ned Beatty are siblings, but it would be cool to have two Beattys.
Can't see those two playing together. No,
boy, that'd be something. That'd be like the pre-Quades. You know what I mean? Like those two are brothers, really?
Huh? All right, if you say so. Cousins, I would have guessed. Sure, why not? That's from someone else's family, and this one's no.
One of you ate a little higher quality food than the other, didn't you?
I've been living off of Malamars for the past 15 years, but what are you
one of them had comic timing before he went crazy and didn't do cocaine all the time. And now I think they both are on cocaine.
Hey, but man, cocaine is so good.
Somehow the wrong Quaid brother was in film 43.
Well, movies only come in two forms. They're either art or fart. Bruce, where does Bonnie and Clyde fall on the art or fart scale for you, sir?
I think you're going to be hard pressed to find anybody who doesn't think this is art. Even if you say it's like slow, not everybody likes movies of this type or this era, but it's a cool movie and it really had a huge cultural impact. And the whole idea, I mean, Bonnie and Clyde were the OG Joker and Harley. All the people now that mistakenly obsess over Joker and Harley as an allegory for their dream relationship once did that about Bonnie and Clyde. Even Jay-Z and Beyonce sang about it.
Is Jay-Z Bonnie?
I don't know. They said modern Bonnie and Clyde 2003 or something was the song. I don't know the year.
That was a long time ago. Oh, boy, everybody getting old. Sean?
Yeah, you're not wrong.
Lordy.
If you were to say to me, are you more of a Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid person or a Bonnie and Clyde person? I would take Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid 10 times out of 10. I love that movie. It has the same feel as this movie because it's of the same era. There is the moments that are slow, like in this movie. There is a absolutely ridiculous musical montage in the middle of Butch Cassidy and Sundance Kid.
But it's Burt Bacharach, so you don't care. Boom.
That's right. But it is ridiculous that it's in there. And but I do like this movie. I would call it art for sure. But I think that you have to be of a certain age in order to enjoy it. And I'm not saying like, if you weren't born before 1980, forget it. Like, I think that once you hit a certain age, you might be able to enjoy a movie like this, especially if you are somebody who was born like post 2000s. If you were to watch this movie right now, it would kind of blow you away if you hadn't seen an older movie of this style, right?
Yeah.
Like you've probably run across movies from this era that are slow, that are not, as trying to say as much as this movie is trying to say, as impactful as this movie is. And I think that you would like this movie more than other movies of this era. because they don't make movies like this anymore. They just don't, and they shouldn't either. You're trying to 4-quadrant everything now. So, how many people? If there was a new Bonnie and Clyde movie right now with the best looking people of this era playing Bonnie and Clyde, people are still not going to go to the movie theater. It doesn't matter.
No, but at the same time too, I don't know that somebody in the modern day could really kind of. There's some sex appeal on this screen with these two that like pretty, and that's what the crazy part is that we even truncate it with the is about problems and whatnot. So I don't know. I really like this film. I think like a 13-year-old is like, I think that's when I first saw it and everything. I think that's a good age for it because you see this kind of gangster stuff. There's a hot lady involved. She's half naked at the beginning. You're having a good time. And then Gene Hackman comes in and he's kind of chewing a little bit of scenery, doing a great job. And there's a giant shootout and stuff at the end. If you can if you have the patience to kind of get through, because it's not always super jamming, but I don't find it super slow either, at least comparative to a lot of other things that I've kind of seen lately. This booked along for me, at least on this viewing and everything, but maybe that's because I know everything that's kind of going on and I've got a deeper level appreciation for it and everything. But I'm big fan. This needs a 4K so very badly. So somebody needs to scan that and make that happen. Appreciate that. Was this Warner Brothers? I think this is Warner Brothers.
Yes, it's Warner Brothers.
They've been doing good on the brand new scaling and stuff lately. Just getting a whole bunch of like Dirty Harry was like scanned in 8K and stuff like that for the 4K that they're putting out. So like Warner Brothers is doing a good job. They need to do that with this movie.
Well, I also think it's a pretty good testament when a film from this era passes the phone test as well as this one did for me.
Yeah, I agree. Well, that will do it for Gene Hackman Month here over on HMP and everything. Next month, we are starting a very important month. It's May, and we got a boatload of stuff coming up here for you. We got Mucho Ralph Macchio. So that Macchio is M-A, then there's a Y in parentheses, Chio, Ralph Macchio. So we're going to be doing not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5 Ralph Macchio films. And then we'll never have to touch Ralph Macchio again because there's no more work that's really to be explored unless he puts out new stuff. But we're going to be starting out next week with Francis Ford Coppola's The Outsiders. Is it Francis Ford Coppola did that one, yeah?
Yeah.
I always, for some weird reason, there's always, I don't know if it's I always think that the Batman guy did one of those movies, one of those Brat Pack movies, didn't he?
Tim Burton?
No. Anyways, my brain's just shot today. Everybody.
Joel Schumacher.
Schumacher. Yeah, I thought Schumacher did one of those.
Because I want to see like St. Elmo's Fire, the Burton version.
So we'll be checking out that next week. In the meantime, Bruce, where we can find more of your work on the interwebs.
We still got a long way to go to get the world to appreciate the effort it takes to fight a werewolf. So just go to YouTube, check out my award-winning extended short, 38 minutes of pure bliss, Werewolf Fighter.
Sean, I'm to understand there's a new Star Wars program out on the televisions.
That's right. It's called Andor, and we have a podcast called Andor 30 Questions. The first episode will be on our YouTube channel, and everything after that will be Patreon subscribers. So if you want to know what we think of Andor, the second season, please tune into that.
And what you think as well, because we obviously take your questions in every week as well and throw those into the show. So be a part of the action, everybody. Like I said, we'll put that over on the YouTube page and the Patreon as well. That is it, everybody. Join us for Ralph Macchio. I got to say it right. With The Outsiders. For Sweet Sean, the Kovacs from the internet, Bruce Leslie, I'm Matt Portrait, reminding you to be a dirty baby and leave a comment for your mom.